Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. In this video we're going to do a free healing, and the free healing is going to be based on the topic of essentially on everybody's mind at the moment in regards to the world at the moment with the whole COVID situation, but in regards to the vaccination. And within this video it's not going to be all about whether being pro-vaccination or anti the vaccination. Also going to explain the perspective of what's going on regarding the COVID situation and the vaccination needed due to that epidemic from a human perspective, but also from a quantum perspective. And again, this video is not about taking sides, okay, in regards to anti or pro the whole situation. I'm just going to put the information out there, and we're going to do a through healing to give peace of mind for the people that have had the vaccination and they're a little bit worried about any side effects or adverse effects coming from the vaccination. So what I have noticed so far from people that have come to me and booked a session that have had the COVID vaccination for COVID-19, what we've found is it's been clearing. We just need to clear out an AI intelligence that has been inserted within that individual because they've had the vaccine. Now, AI, or artificial intelligence, is really just meaning that it's an intelligence that's not you. Okay, so that's an important aspect of this. My work at Truly Holistic here is all about trying to connect you to the higher aspects of yourself. So while you're here having a human experience, you're being guided by aspects of you that exist outside of this reality, so you can stay on your merrily way on the path that leads to abundance and all the things that your heart desires of the way that you want your life to be, instead of kind of being run off track, which other intelligence, when we connect to other intelligence, that can happen, especially intelligence that evolve with the energy of fear or suffering, and they lead you astray, and hence you get fear and you create suffering through our creation ability. Okay, so what we've noticed is we've had to remove an AI intelligence, an intelligence that's not connected to that person that's had the vaccination, because that artificial intelligence disconnects that person from a greater connection to self. So what we call that is your ability, your feel abilities. Now, why we call it feel abilities is the differentiation between feel and thinking. You know, as the human, at the human level, when we're not connecting to that higher aspect of self, or being the conduit to allow our higher aspects here. So what I mean by higher aspects, your soul, which is part of that collective of souls that exist in different realities, which we call dimensions, which are your higher selves. That's why we get the term we're multidimensional, as well as all the way up to source self, which is the source of the energy that bridges into all these different versions of you, which are all connected through what we call quantum entanglement, a quantum mechanics or quantum physics term. And that's very important, right? So, and they communicate to you through feel, okay? When we're disconnected to all that and the mind's in control, okay? Now, mind and control go together, those words. Consciousness and control don't. They're not associated with each other, okay? The mind takes over, and the way that we're guided is through thinking, and a lot of the times overthinking things, right? Especially awakened people. You know, we can be awakened but still be the mind be in control of you, hence mind control. And we overthink things. We've got all these sources of information where we're thinking, wow, we weren't aware of all this stuff, but we can overdo that, okay? And that's where we need to step up into enlightenment, when we bring through our higher aspects of ourselves and embody that here, which silences the mind. That's why we do mindfulness and meditation, to remove the mind out of the way, right? So that mind was always used to be a connection or a docking station for all these other consciousness to come in and essentially drive you, okay, or control you. Okay, so we're going to do a clearing about that by disconnecting all that AI that's trying to put you astray, that is within the vaccination, okay? And that's the only issue we're seeing so far in regards to people that are having the vaccination. You know, a lot of the rest of it's just speculation and fear, okay? And my guides tell me the worst thing we can ever do when we take the vaccination, or any form of vaccination, is the fear of it. It's not even taking the substance itself, it's your fear, which you install or create that energy and put that energy on that substance, which puts all the odds in against you. And you're doing that, okay? So we want to place all the odds in our own favor by not creating out of fear, out of the mind. So we're going to do a clearing about that, okay? What I want to mention first, though, before we do the clearing, is that a lot of people are really worried about when taking the vaccine is how it's going to mutate or change their DNA, okay? So on the human level, okay, using the mind, because the mind can only take you so far. It's the most familiar jail cell you'll become familiar with, okay? It limits you, okay? And as the human, through what we call science, which is a mind creation, we call it DNA, genes, genetic material, and so on, all these terms. You know, as I say, as the human, we love putting labels on stuff and whacking labels on it. I tell you, the higher aspects of ourselves and consciousness don't care about words, don't care about labels, as they communicate through feel, not overthinking things and putting things and labeling things and compartmentalizing everything, right? Which makes us more analytical, and it just doesn't work with us, right? So, as I say, we reference DNA, genetic material, using the human mind. Now, I'm going to now get into those perspectives, the difference as from the human perspective and then the quantum perspective. And DNA is your soul, and the soul is your DNA, okay? So from a quantum perspective, the way that they tell me what the DNA is soul, okay? Because the soul is interfacing the human as an interface to then create reality here, okay? Just like I'm looking at my phone right now, recording this video, it's an interface to connect with other people. Okay, our body is an interface. It's a computer. Okay, and we'll get to that. So, when we look at our reality from a human perspective, our human perspective calls this the physical body because it's physical, it's tangible, we can touch it, it's physical, right? Like this desk, I can touch it, it's physical. But quantum physicists mention that the idea that we live in a physical reality is just an optical illusion, saying that it's still true that this is a physical body from the human perspective, the limitations of the mind. Now, from a quantum perspective, what they say that what we think is the human body is called, or the physical body, is called the physical projection. Because from a quantum perspective, we're just a projection of light. I always love using this analogy. It's like those old projector screens, right? Giving out that light, and if you're sitting right next to the light, you see all these different colors of light coming out of that projector. And it's not until it hits the wall or hits a screen, it formulates into an image. Exactly like that in regards to what we are as the physical or the human. Okay, so you can see that there's two perspectives, and in both ways, it's kind of right. There's no wrong or right, right? It's just your perspective, the way you look at it. So, as the human, when we're trying to piece things together and understand things together, it comes with difficulty because, as I say, as the human, when we're not connected to greater consciousness or higher aspects of our own consciousness, we are only existing within the limitations of our mind. And again, another analogy I like to use is when we're doing that, it's like trying to see the greater picture of a 100-piece puzzle with only one piece in our hand. There's going to be a lot of hit and miss, right? And hence why this word experiment comes up. And again, this is what we're hearing a lot with a lot of people, is that this vaccination, COVID vaccination, there hasn't really been any human trials, so that the experiment is on the people taking it now. Okay? So, and what I'm trying to say here, okay, that's one part of science, the vaccine, that can be deemed an experiment, but a lot within the science community and using the human mind is an experiment, okay, because we're really just, there's a lot of hit and miss. But when we see ourselves as a conduit to bring more of the human here and embody that, we bring a higher aspect of ourselves that can see the greater picture with that 100-piece puzzle put together in a holistic form to see the greater picture. So less uncertainty and more certainty about what's happening and what's going on. And the soul is part of that, right? So, as I say, in all reality, everything done by the human mind in the field of science is really is an experiment, okay? There's a greater knowing and understanding that comes through when we bring consciousness through, which is expansive, and the mind is restricting. So there's the difference between the mind and consciousness, the polarities to each other. Okay, so one of those times of the I just said it. One of the limitations of this existence with the human mind as the human is time itself. Okay, so when we connect and dial into our consciousness, our soul, and our higher aspects of ourself that exists outside this reality, they are not bound to the limitations like you are as the human, right? So like with time. Okay, so as the human, using a human perspective, now let's talk about the virus itself. What is a virus? So as the human, from a human perspective of the mind, this virus, or any virus, is an organism that can infect and kill, okay? And that's what we're seeing out there, right, from media and stuff, is telling us that we have to wear masks and all those sorts of things in regards to how deadly this virus and how it can spread and so on. Now, that's a human perspective, and again, I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not even saying that's right. That's just from a human perspective with the limitations as a human in the mind, okay? Now, if we looked at the virus from a quantum perspective, okay, that the virus is a program. Very much in line, because where are the two places that we see viruses in regards to human physiology and computers, programming and software, okay? Now, the quantum perspective sees virus very much exactly like that in regards to computer programming and software. Because as I said, at a higher aspect of really what we are as the human is a vessel to be programmed. It's a computer, okay? In fact, one of the very first viruses that came out, what they used to call it was a Trojan horse, right? And we all know the story about the Trojan horse, right? Is that it's about this fake identity on the outside to get something in and kind of manipulate somebody of what actually is happening. It's a cover, funnily enough, right? So you can take what you want in regards to that. And as I say, the human is essentially the computer that gets programmed. So really the question we need to ask is, well, who's doing the programming? So that comes back again to that original thing of why we're doing this free clearing, is we want to make sure that the right consciousness, intelligence is connected to us or guiding us, this computer, while we're here as the human, right? Not artificial intelligence, not this intelligence that has other, what's probably the word to say, has agendas that are not aligned with your agenda, okay? You want to connect to the consciousness that's you, because it has the same agenda. It's got your back and wants the best for you, okay? So you can see there is no right or wrong. It's just down, it's perspective, right? It's perspective, okay? And what you also choose to believe, okay? Belief is everything, okay? Because belief creates your reality, okay? In the pharmaceutical industry, we have this thing called a placebo. Now, placebo is evidence-based fact of showing how powerful belief is when you believe in something that it's going to work. So you've got to query about what is actually working on a chemical level in regards to pharmaceuticals, a biological level, and also an intentional level where we believe in something. What is actually doing the healing? That's a good question to ask, isn't it? And something to think about. Now, before we get into the free healing, I know I've been talking for a wee while, but this is very healing in itself. When we look at the word coronavirus, the word corona particularly, corona is the sun. Okay? Now the sun if we look at, again, from the human perspective of being on a rock that's traveling around a star, which we call the sun, and there's many perspectives to that, is that that sun is there. If we didn't have that sun there, we wouldn't have life here as the human. Okay? So it's the light bringer. When we look at our soul and our higher aspects of self, what's that? It's the light bringer. Again, with an analogy of that projector screen, right? That projector of light, which creates the projection as the human. You're a physical projection. Okay? So a virus that has an effect on your sun, which is your soul. So that comes back to the aspect of people worried about changes to their DNA, which from a quantum perspective is soul, your soul. Right? Also, the word corona also references to the word crown. And anybody that is aligned with chakra healing or chakras, what's this chakra right up here above your head? The crown chakra. And that's associated with connection to the higher aspects of you, yourself, your soul, and so on, right? So interesting that that word corona has a great reference or connection and where we can put the dots together, okay? Because we're worried about that connection to a higher aspect of ourself, of the AI intelligence that comes through with the vaccine, okay? So I hope you've really enjoyed this and what I've had to say. So let's do the free clearing, okay? So here we go. For everybody watching and listening to this video, okay? Disconnect all artificial intelligence from the feel abilities, consciousness abilities of everyone watching and listening to this free healing, please. Disconnect and remove all artificial intelligence, all intelligence that is not their own, that is foreign, from the feel abilities, the abilities, the infinite abilities you have at the consciousness level for everyone watching and listening to this video, please. Okay. So that's done. Okay, so that's the clearing. And also, I hope me explaining it gives you greater meaning of how important that clearing is, and also greater understanding of not only the virus, but also the treatment that is currently being laid out in regards to a vaccine. Till next time.